Hi, I'm Zoe from Zoebakes, and this is episode 2 of Q&A with Zoe. I answer your questions that you've put to me on my Substack. If you're a member of my extra Substack, you can ask me questions. I'll come here on YouTube and I'll answer them for everybody to hear. But if you want to ask a question, you have to subscribe to my Substack. I'll put a link below, and please send me your questions. These questions are awesome. I'm super excited. So let's just get right into it. The first one comes from David. I'm always confused whether I should use salted or unsalted when a recipe is not specific. Makes me crazy when chefs are not definitive on this uber important ingredient. By the way, wish you were making more shows for Magnolia. Well, that's both of us. I really miss them. I loved making Zoebakes for the Magnolia Network, and who knows, maybe they'll ask me to do more. But let's get to your question about butter. That wasn't in the question, but I know you're talking about butter. Unsalted versus salted. I love them both, but they have very specific uses in my kitchen. Salted butter always on the counter for toast. Otherwise, always unsalted. And the reason is I want to control how much salt is in my recipe. If I use salted butter, it can totally depend on the brand how much salt is in that butter. I just recently had an incredible butter. It was like a European style butter, but it was perhaps the saltiest stick of butter I have ever had in my whole life. I loved it, but I wouldn't want to bake with it because my recipe may come out too salty, because a recipe probably also has salt in the ingredient list. So if it doesn't determine, always use unsalted. You can adjust the salt to however you like it. But I would save your salted butter for bread and toast and, adding to things at the table. Okay, great question. This one is from Janet. It's about flour. I have a question, if it's not too late. Unbleached flour versus bleached. I heard bleached flour eventually affects one's arthritis. Oh, interesting. Okay. Is it okay to replace it with unbleached in all baking? Can I use unbleached in your banana bread with Nutella recipe? Thank you, Janet. Okay, well, that's super interesting. And because I'm not a doctor, I'm not going to address the health benefits of the flour. That's something you should probably bring up with your doctor. I only use unbleached flour in my recipes. I prefer the taste of it because you don't have that chemical aftertaste. I prefer the color of it. I prefer everything about it. So yes, absolutely 100% use unbleached flour in all of my recipes because that's what I use. And that banana Nutella recipe from Zoe Bakes Cakes, or you can find it on my website, is dynamite with unbleached flour. So yeah, thank you for that. The next question is from Tracy. I'm helping a friend in mid-April, and here's the conundrum. What's a great dessert that can be made mini for a wedding, packs a visual punch, and can perhaps be made a bit ahead? This is awesome. And congratulations to your friend, and bravo to you for diving in and helping her. So it depends on where you live. So let's say you live in New Orleans versus Minnesota. Those two climates are going to make a huge difference in terms of what you make. So let's assume that it's humid in April wherever you are. You're going to want to stay away from things like meringue or things that are going to get sticky or stale really quickly. I love the fact that you're thinking ahead. So things that can be made ahead and put in the freezer. Cheesecake is one. You can make a cheesecake I bake them in flat sheets, like a baking sheet, and then stamp them out into little rounds, and then maybe pipe some whipped cream onto it, a berry on top of that, and you are good to go. Everybody loves cheesecake. It'll hold up really well. It'll hold up in the freezer so you can do it ahead. The other thing that you can do is like a devil's food. Again, bake it into a sheet tray and you can stamp out little shapes in it. You can stamp out hearts, you can stamp out rounds, whatever shape you want to do. The one thing that I would say for a wedding especially, don't want somebody having a big messy thing that they have to deal with when they're all dressed up. So in addition to the cheesecake and the devil's food cake, I will link to those below. I've actually made both of them for weddings before. The other thing that would be amazing are doing little puff pastries, because you can do the pâte à choux or the puff ahead of time and freeze them. And then you can just pipe whatever filling you want inside the morning of. So that's going to take a little bit of time the morning of the wedding. So if you're in the wedding, if you're part of the wedding, you may not want to do that extra work the day of, but those go together really quickly and you can do part of it ahead of time. So hope that helped and have a blast at the wedding. Okay, here's another one from Sarah. I like to make homemade cookies for my kids. Yes. But they always end up thin and spreading so much and are rock hard within 36 hours. If the recipe just calls for butter, is there a way to make them a little bit more cakey and thicker, less spreading? And is humidity relevant to this? My climate is 2 steps from tropical. Oh, so many good points in here. Okay, so first of all, if your cookies are spreading, it could be, and this is something I am super passionate about. I just wrote a cookie book. I have this in a chapter called Cookie Academy on how to fix cookie problems just like this. So please pre-order my cookie book. I'll put a link below. You're gonna love that chapter because it's going to address all of these issues. Let me just touch on a couple of these. One, the spreading. If your cookies are spreading, it's probably because you have either too much butter in the recipe in ratio to the flour. So you can either up the amount of flour or decrease the amount of butter slightly, and that's going to give you a cakier feel to your cookies. So the other thing that you can do is switch out a little bit of the butter for shortening. Shortening does not spread as much as butter, and so it's going to make a sturdier and less spreading cookie. Let's talk about the cookies getting hard as a rock after 36 hours. 36 hours is kind of a long time for a cookie. You can make cakey cookies that are meant to be soft and will resist getting hard like that. But let me suggest that you do this, that you make your batter, that you portion it out with a scoop, and you put it on a tray and refrigerate those scoops, and then you freeze them. And you only bake the number of cookies that you want to eat in like that day or maybe the next day. And then when you're ready for a next batch, you can take the cookies out and bake them up fresh. I think that's gonna help a lot. One, with just about every recipe, but also because it's so humid where you live. So I think the freezer is going to be your friend. Just let me reiterate, order my cookie book because it's gonna have tons of tips like that. Catherine, what's the best alternate for eggs in most of your cake recipes? Oh, this is a hard one, and I wish I had a brilliant answer for you. Some of the recipes are gonna do really well with an egg replacer. even with like a flaxseed and water slurry. I've done it before, and in some of the recipes, it works brilliantly. I did not test each of the recipes with an egg replacer, and so it's going to be a little bit of an experiment. The ones that I would recommend that you stay away from are the ones in the super light category, like angel food cake, or even a chiffon cake. Anything that uses the egg whites whipped up to really leaven the cake. I just don't think that the egg replacers are going to be satisfying. You're going to have a much heavier cake in the end. So I would stick to things where there's only a few eggs in the recipe. And like I said, it's going to be a bit of an experiment. So I hope that helped. And I can link to a couple of recipes on my website that are egg-free. Okay, Melissa. Hi, Zoe. So glad you're back. I loved your show. Thank you so much. My question is on gluten. I have read and seen videos, but still cannot understand how gluten works. Can you explain in simple terms? Thanks, Melissa. Melissa, I love this question. First of all, gluten. Gluten is a byproduct of wheat. It is the protein from wheat. I think the easiest way to show you what I'm talking about is to do a little experiment. Because gluten is developed when you add water to the flour, I'm going to show you what happens when I add the water to a low protein, low gluten flour, like cake flour, and then to one that's a high gluten, high protein flour, like bread flour. So first we're going to go into the cake flour. Very low protein, very low gluten. This is 50 grams of flour and 75 grams of water. When I stir it, I'm going to get what looks more like a slurry than a dough, because this flour has so little protein or gluten in it. So look at that. It's starting to look more like that paste that you used when you were a kid, which is essentially what this is. So that's it. You can see very thin, looks like I said, just like a slurry and not like a dough. Okay, so this is the bread flour, high protein, same amount, 50 grams of flour, 75 grams of water. When I add these two together, because it has so much protein and so much gluten in it, I should get what's closer to a dough. So you can see this has way more structure to it. It absorbs way more of the water. The higher the protein, the more the gluten is going to develop and the more water it's going to absorb. So if you find that your doughs or cakes are dry, it might be because you're using a high protein, high gluten flour. And so it's going to absorb water differently. So that's it. Gluten is a byproduct of wheat, and depending on how much protein or gluten is in the flour, it's going to behave differently. I hope that was helpful to you. This is the high protein, high gluten flour, and this is the low protein, low gluten flour. I hope all of this was helpful to you. Thank you for joining me. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Please subscribe to my newsletter, Zoe François' Substack. I'll leave a link below. Like the video, send it off to your friends, leave me a comment and let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Thanks, and come back and bake with me some more.